Is it rolling?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
You're good.
Cool. This will be my first time doing anything like... Well, I tried doing it on film. I interviewed Jason Boyette. And I tried to do it on film, but the GoPro messed up.
Hey, Emmett, you ready to go?
Yeah.
Oh, come on.
You have to go get your diaper changed, buddy.
Come on. Come this way.
Get out. Get out of here.
Hey, this way.
Get out of here.
Come on. Emmett. Hey.
Emmett.
See you, Curly.
This way. Come here.
Emmett.
Come here.
Get out of here.
No, wrong way. Okay. Hold on.
Man.
All right.
Unruly child.
Say bye-bye.
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 Bye-bye, buddy.
Oh. Welcome to my life.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy.
No, I love it. I'm a huge kids guy, so.
Yeah, well, dude, it's kind of blown my mind having a little one.
Oh, I bet.
Let's see. I think that's the... Give me some, just a...
Hey. You feeling anything? I don't talk incredibly loud to begin with, so
Let's see.
I need to amp it up.
I'm going to have to find... I've got a picture, so I can't ever remember these... I can't ever remember what the symbols on this thing mean.
Oh, gotcha.
So I had to snap a picture of it, and then I always have to...
Yeah, Google and YouTube are my best buddies.
So bidirectional is what I want. Oh, I got it in stereo. That's why it's not.
Hey-o.
All right. Hello. Yeah, that's better.
We're here.
Yeah. We out here.
Woo!
All right. I'm just going to kick it off. Cool?
Let's do it, yeah.
All right. All right. Thank you for joining me, joining us. This is the Panhandle Primate podcast. I'm your host, Dexter Kearley, with my guest, Kegan Hollis.
Hey, guys.
How would you say you're like best known or like most known? Maybe most known would be the best one.
Oh, gosh. Well, up until probably a year ago, I would say I was known mainly just the weird art kid, but probably the past year, I've got the chance to do a lot of house shows and different events, and me and my wife started a vintage clothing company, and so really we have our hands full with a bunch of different things, so I'm kind of just trying to move and shake and do whatever we can.
So a mover and shaker.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of that's what it seems like. I mean, it's cool because I feel like I'm in like a mid-generation. Like I'm in between. There's like the way the slightly older generation did things, which was start cool restaurants, and like that's how they influence culture. And then it seems like there's like a younger group that are doing a lot more like hanging out at people's houses and shows, like doing it with a show, with a purpose, with like almost an intent behind it, you know?
Right. Yeah. I mean, as far as like the house shows and stuff they go, like you had just mentioned, kind of this generation that I'm coming up in Amarillo is, I think they're kind of tired of there not really being like a certain building that we can house things, and we don't really have a mid-level event center at all. We have huge civic center or tiny bars to play at, and I think a lot of us have seen that issue arise, and so really in the past year and a half, there has been almost a house show every weekend, and that's been really cool because it's so much more organic, and it's just a lot better feel. People tend to let loose a little bit more, and you just kind of seem to get a little bit more genuine feel overall, and so that's been really, really cool to see over the past year at least. So,
well, seeing it kind of to me seems reminiscent, or like what I imagine the like punk scene being back in the day, or you know, like these underground movements. I think like whenever I hear house show, the first thing I think of is like more of like a black house party, you know, like in the 80s where they're bumping hip hop, and it's kind of like that's what I'm thinking of, and so it is interesting that it's kind of having this revitalization. I wonder if in every generation almost has like maybe the same thread.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
I mean, basically, kind of to go off that a little bit, we are kind of in a rebuilding phase with our art community, really as a whole, because since the death of Stanley Marsh, if you will, we've kind of started over. It seems like we've kind of lost traction. It seemed like when I moved to this area 5 or 6 years ago, there really wasn't a ton going on positive in the art community, and it's kind of to the point now that we're starting to gain some momentum and actually get some traction again, and stuff is happening. So I think that's kind of where it's at now. It's kind of at the forefront of that, hopefully. So.
Oh yeah. Well, let's go back to, you said you were like the weird art kid.
Yeah.
What does that mean? What's the weird art kid?
Well, I mean, I think that's really about all I did for the past few years. I wasn't really involved in much else but going to art school and, trying to make art and stuff. I had a friend group and stuff, but I wasn't as much of a mover and shaker as we said before. I wasn't really interested in, throwing events and really trying to push the art community forward. I really was just trying to, survive college at the time, and then just make art that I enjoyed. And now that, made it through college and, in a point where I start to enjoy my art, now I can kind of blossom and go in some other routes as well.
So what is your medium?
Well, primarily I do canvas work, but I'm working on a whole new series. I guess I'm about 4 months deep into that, and it's all pieces of like cut out wood, and so it's all 3-dimensional art. So it's just a plain slate background, and then I will cut out the images and transpose them onto the piece, and then paint the piece. So it's, when you look at it, little pieces will kind of jump out at you, and some pieces are farther back, and so it's kind of the happy medium between sculpture and painting for me. In college, I was actually a sculpture major, and kind of went away from that. I really started to enjoy painting better. Felt like I had more of a knack for painting, and so this is kind of, I feel like, where I need to be. I get to work with my hands and build stuff, but also there's the kind of the painting feel and sculptural together. So
nice.
Kind of where I am now.
That's cool, because I know I've seen on your Instagram, it seems like you can tell a lot about a person based off of their Instagram, because it's like a level of like, one of the things my wife gets on to me all the time is she's like, you need to put out a consistent image.
Yeah.
It needs to be cohesive. It needs, like, when somebody needs to understand what's happening here, And I think sometimes that you can't hide behind that. So like, it's almost like a portion of who you are is going to come out. You can't put out a completely fake persona.
No, absolutely.
But with yours, it seems like you have like almost like pastel-y feels. Like as like I scroll through, that's what like pops in my head is like all these colors are like pastel colors. It's kind of cool. It is like cohesive.
Yeah.
Are you pretty intentional with that kind of, like with anything that's consumed like that?
Right. I would hope that I don't think too much about it. I don't make too much of a conscious effort, but I think I'm, with my clothing choices and with my art, it is kind of cohesive. I tend to wear a lot of the same colors that I use on my art pieces as well, which is kind of strange, but yeah, that it is kind of intentional, I guess, in a way. I have a knack for for just pastel in general, and it kind of just happened, and
Yeah.
looked up one day and everything I had was pastel.
That's
so.
hilarious. Yeah, it creeps up on you
So,
sometimes.
yeah.
You don't realize who you are. Sometimes
Yeah.
it starts what would the thing be like? Appearing,
Right.
Like your future stuff starts appearing and you don't even know, and then before you know it, you're
Yeah.
whoever you are, It's
Yeah,
kind of
the pastel boy.
Yeah, the pastel boy. That's hilarious. So how did you end up in Amarillo? Just from going to school at WT, or
Yeah.
what was your background like? Where you grew up and stuff.
Okay. Yeah. We could delve into this for hours, but I'll try to kind of condense it. So when people ask where I'm from, I always say New Mexico for starters, and people usually just leave it at that. That's good enough for me. But if they specifically ask where I'm from, I usually say Clovis, just because that's the only decent sized city that was close to where I actually grew up. I was from this little tiny town called Texaco, New Mexico, not the gas station. That was a common misconception. But it was a little tiny town, about 2,000 people. And I really didn't even get to grow up with an art background at all. Our community was basically all ag. And as I got into junior high and high school, they actually cut our art program, cut the art and music program. And my brother's a musician, and then I was an artist, and so we really didn't have an outlet at all to do what we liked. And I basically just came to WT as an artist on a whim, because I felt like, that's what I was best at. I didn't really have any other thing that I was interested enough to go get a degree in. And so that's why I came to art school. But I mean, I really didn't have any background in it at all. And so when I got to Canyon, that's kind of when I learned everything that I know now as far as art stuff. So yeah, it's kind of a weird upbringing.
Dude, that's interesting that like you went to Canyon, which and especially if you're not from this area, and it's kind of weird because it's kind of it seems like it's the stereotype, but it's not necessarily the truth.
Yeah.
That people from this area are closed-minded or not open-minded, or that that they're somehow podunk or culturalists, because we are very ag. But it is interesting because I've met a lot of very ag conservative type people who pour a lot of money into the arts on a regular basis. Like it almost like they are kind of the backbone of it as well. And you say you go to Canyon to get enlightened. In the ways of art. And it's kind of funny because a lot of people would think, oh, small town Texas, that's not where you're going to find art. But I kind of wonder, and this is one of the things, a slight tangent, that I think is interesting about the internet, is there almost is no border anymore. So if you're a kid growing up in, what was it called? Texaco?
Texaco, New Mexico.
Texaco, New Mexico. I don't know if I've heard of Texaco.
Yeah,
which
you
is
probably
kind of interesting.
haven't. Yeah,
is it south?
It's eastern New Mexico, so we're right on the border of Texas. Farwell, Texas is literally we're separated by railroad tracks between Texas and New Mexico. I could literally almost throw a rock to Texas from my house growing up. So,
dang.
Yeah, that was also kind of weird, but
yeah. But yeah, I mean, if you're a kid growing up in that neck of the woods, and you wanna see art, it's a portal away. You just get in, you search something, and it's kind of interesting since we just moved into a new house. Shannon's trying to define her feel, of the house.
Yeah.
And so she's on Etsy all the time. She's looking up all these different artists,
of course,
and it's like, damn, there is some I think a lot of people think, oh, it's all been done with art, But then you see something that's such a perfect mashup of two things that are completely different styles.
Yeah.
And it's new. And it's just interesting. She's just scrolling through these droves and droves and droves of all these beautiful pictures that are all original works of art.
Right.
You know, and it's just like, man, it's kind of interesting to see how people can continue to do stuff even though it's all been done.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, kind of on that as well, I think even really when I was coming up, I'm not old at all, I'm only in my mid-20s, but I still feel like the internet wasn't even as tangible as it has become in the past 5 years, I would say.
Oh, yeah.
Really, since I started college is when I started to find other artists that I was really into. I only knew about like the Andy Warhols and the huge names, which I love all of them. They're amazing. But since then, I've been able to find kind of my own voice for what I like as well in art, and so it's so nice. You're right. Even though we live in eastern New Mexico or far out West Texas, you're very close to really anything you want to be. You can get on DM and message any big name artist. Doesn't mean that they'll answer back, but you have the ability to do that, which is pretty awesome, I think.
Well, my first guest was Erin Holland.
Yes.
And she works at the Museum of Modern Art in New York.
Right.
And at the same time that she was here, they were running like an exhibit or like I don't know what do they call that? Where a person puts all their pictures. And I think it's an exhibit, and it was of West Texas.
Oh,
so she said, like in New York City, in the Museum of Modern Art, there's pictures of Amarillo.
Yeah.
And everybody in Amarillo was like, God, this is a god awful place, like ugly and this and that. And then in another place, they're saying, wow, that's a beautiful place.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it is kind of almost like distance gives you that perspective to where you can actually see beyond your like perceived projection of like what a place is. But
yes, absolutely.
So you're newly married?
Yes, I am. Yeah, I guess about 8 months in.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How's that going?
It's been good.
See, now you're 20... How
26.
26, okay. You were so 25 when you got married?
Yeah.
That's the same as me. I got married at 25.
Oh, nice. Very cool.
Which is, it seems like the perfect time. It's like and now almost being 30, like your brain, they don't emphasize this enough to like males and just society in general. Your brain is growing and changing.
Right.
And when it takes different shapes, it has different thoughts.
Yeah.
And a 20-year-old's brain is not having the same thoughts that a 25-year-old's brain and then a 30-year-old. It's different. But it seems to me like that 25, right in that age, the quarter life crisis or whatever, it seems to be go along with like getting married.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
It's like you almost, and for me, I needed that person to basically be like, okay, I'll be with you all the time and help guide you through the next 5 years. Make sure you get to 30,
Yeah, I'm pretty lucky. I married McCabery is my wife, and she's, like 2 or 3 years younger than I am, and kind of baffles me at sometimes because she's so much more mature than I am, and she's so much younger, but I'm with you. I need a helpmate. I need all the help I can get to get through this. So I don't even know if I was ready at 25, but I've sure enjoyed it. So.
Oh yeah, dude. It's one of those things.
It's
like
been a blast.
I really do feel like marriage benefits the guy more than the girl.
Yeah.
Because it's like the longer I've been married, the more I'm kind of like, I'm the dud in this relationship. Like she's the cool one, And it's like, but she can't leave me now, she's got to stay with me. So it's kind of a good way of like roping them into something before they realize what's going on.
Oh, I don't know. I think thankfully guys do mature. So maybe by the time I'm your age, I'll be up to par. Yeah. I'm hoping. So.
Ooh, I don't know. I'm hoping for 40 now. I'm starting to think like maybe by 40. So let's see here. So did you feel like you were young to get married?
I didn't really feel like I was young, but I would consider myself, I'm not gonna lie, I don't think I'm the most mature 26-year-old ever. And so I don't know if, I probably could have waited a few more years in maturity, but it happened when it needed to happen, and I'm so glad that I got married. But yeah, I mean, I definitely was pretty young. I could have got married at 30 and still felt too young. So
Yeah, it's one of those things you're never quite ready for. It seems like.
no,
But it's funny because a lot of my friends. So I grew up half my time in North Carolina, half my time here.
oh nice.
So I went to my sophomore year of high school in North Carolina, and not a whole lot of my friends are married.
Yeah,
Like most of my group of friends aren't married. They don't, and they're, we're going into 30s now, and I was 25. And I always wondered if part of that was me moving back to Amarillo, and here we just have more of a culture of getting married a little bit younger, or So anytime I hear of another person that got married at 25, I'm like, okay, what was your thought process around this thing?
Yeah.
So do you view your art as a product? Like, is it like when you're making it, are you just like kind of like, this is what I'm feeling right now, or is it I'm making this thing in order to be consumed?
I think I mainly make out of need. At this point, I've been pretty consistently making art for like 2.5 years, and now I'm kind of, it's almost like I'm dependent on it. I find a lot of joy and a lot of satisfaction out of actually making stuff, and so really I make because I feel like I have to. I can't imagine not doing it now, and so yeah, I mean, I would, as I get older, I would love to sell more and get in more galleries and all the superficial things that come along with it. That's awesome when that finally does come. But right now, I really make still for myself. I really enjoy it, and so I have a few field notes deep with just ideas that I have down, and hopefully when I have enough money to go spend the money on supplies, I knock one out and then just take it one by one. So
nice.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool. I'm always interested in that process, like with musicians, and because I've kind of made art, quote unquote, in the like kind of in the shadows. I'm not really putting it out to anybody because I don't really know if anybody'd even care for it, but I get something out of it.
Right. Absolutely.
So it's interesting to me whenever a job's a job. So if you're a professional artist, there are times when it's a job and you're grinding it out and you're not necessarily even feeling it, or you might get halfway through a project and be like, this is shit. This is all shit, and I'm wasting my time, or who knows? It's a job,
Yeah.
So it's always interesting to me whenever a person takes that step and they say, I want to take either my talent or my joy, and I want to turn it into a job.
Right.
That's always an interesting, because it's not. I mean, still you're making art, or still you're playing music, or still you're doing something you want. Yeah. But you're being a lot more intentional about it, and its requirements go up.
Right.
As soon as people are going to consume it. Yeah. Because like Hayden Pedigo,
yes, absolutely.
If he puts out an album and it's shit,
it's
kind of like, dude, I might have lost all my fans if I, But if he continually puts out good music, then he'll gain more fans. So it's just once you start putting your stuff out there, it kind of takes on a different.
Oh yeah, you can't go back once you put it out.
Exactly.
So, no, I'm with you. Thankfully, I mean, most days I'm glad that I'm not to that point yet to where it's kind of arduous like that. But I'm also excited for the day, hopefully, when I am going to have to be in the studio for 5-6 hours a day. I'm ready for that day, absolutely. And maybe once I'm there, I might not enjoy doing it all day long, but I'm pretty sure I will. I mean, it's one of those things that I don't know. It's unlike anything else in my life, so I've enjoyed it a lot.
Nice, man. That's pretty cool. So tell me a little bit more about these like pop-up art shows, because I haven't actually. So I've seen several of them on Facebook.
Yeah.
But I haven't actually made it out to any of them.
Okay.
Cool. So tell me like what's your concept, and like what are you doing?
Okay. Cool. So we do several different types of things. So when we do stuff at our house specifically, usually what I try to incorporate is several different things that if people are going to take the time to come out, that that they actually have a reason to stick around. I mean, much more than just the vintage clothing or the art. And so usually I try to get at least like 2 bands that I really like to play, and we've been thankful enough to get opportunities to bring in bands from all over the country now. We've had guys in from Seattle and San Francisco and North Carolina and all over the place that are coming through this area to bigger cities like Austin and Dallas and so on. And so that's one part of the deal. And then my wife is the main curator of the clothing. And so we have, oh gosh, now I think we have about 10,000 pieces of vintage clothing in our storehouse. So usually with our pop-ups, we'll do about 2,000 or 3,000 pieces at a time, and McAbry will set it all up, and we try to sell that vintage clothing. And then my buddy Ben's Beans, you might have seen him at the community market, he will usually pull his coffee van up at our house as well. So we have coffee outside, and then music inside, and then the vintage clothing, and then art on the walls by usually I try to get in like 5 local artists as well to show at all these house shows. So we're putting on more than just myself and my wife. So
quick. This is a quick side.
Yeah.
Throw out like 5 artists in Amarillo that people should like look at their Instagrams or something.
Okay. I would say Jonathan Phillips. And then let's see. I would say Corbin Carey. Let's go with my buddy. His Instagram name is Mind of Iron. Very, very good. My friend Gabby. She's amazing. And let's see. What else do I really, really like? Well, obviously Hayden Pettigrew, but he's not.
Have you heard of Rachel Edwards?
Yes, absolutely. Rachel's very good. Yeah.
She.
Very, very good
I've
stuff.
been wanting to check out her. Like she does that back alley Polk Street thing.
She is incredible. I missed her last event, and I heard it was absolutely incredible. But yes, she's one of the best in town. Also, my old professor John Rivette is probably
John Rivette.
Probably him or Rob. Rob Weingart, do you know him? He's friends with John. Very, very talented.
Does he have a studio in
Set Center? Yeah, he shares the same studio with John Rivette, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he did like a 10-year stint in New York City, was an art handler for a little bit, worked as a gallerist, so he's been around, and now he lives back in Amarillo. So
nice.
Yeah, I look to him and John. I take a lot of my critique from, because they've kind of been there, done that, so
nice.
They usually have really, really good critique.
Cool. That was a quick side, but so like, what's the process? What's the network like getting bands like that?
So are
you just like doing shotgun basically, like just trying to get whoever you can? Or?
Well, it was kind of crazy. It's that wasn't even really in my realm, or even like something that I was like trying to do. We threw a few house shows at the end of last year, and Hayden was actually the one that helped me with that. We brought in a guy, this fella John Andrews, which is absolutely incredible. And
I actually think that's who I met at the liquor store.
Oh, nice.
They were walking over from your house, and I was walking over from my house.
Yeah.
Or I think I was at my buddy Chris's. But anyway, we were all like, we had all walked to the liquor store and we were getting beer, and like I opened the door and Hayden's standing right there, and I had him on the podcast at that point, so I met him and everything. And then he's hanging out with, is that like a tall fellow with long hair?
Yep.
Yeah. And so I met them.
Or you might actually be talking about Andrew Weathers. they are move-ins from San Francisco, but he has also played at my house quite often.
Okay.
But yeah, we had a few house shows at the end of last year, and then people just started like coming out of the woodwork and messaging me on Facebook and Instagram, and it just kind of became a thing. It was really, really fun, and yeah, we've had some really great bands come through. So yeah, that just kind of dropped in my lap. It wasn't really anything intentionally that I was trying to do, but it's been really nice for house shows. So
Yeah, well, I mean, when you're open to
It's been
stuff,
awesome.
when you're open
Yeah,
to stuff,
yeah.
it seems like it starts coming at you.
oh, absolutely, yeah. I think that's really the main thing that I've learned this year, especially because I think at this point since January we've done almost a dozen house shows, and so it's been several a month that we've been putting on, and that is solely just because people have given me the opportunity to put them on, and so that's an awesome thing. I think that's one thing I learned from my dad over most things is just that if you're gonna make it, you really have to work hard and put yourself out there, especially, and so that's what I've tried to do a lot this past year, and it's been cool to see what happens with it.
So I have here. So like, are you're in the millennial
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
classification, and you're kind of
I
doing
guess
like
so.
a very millennial thing. Like,
Yeah.
it would almost be like if you took a timestamp of today. It's like, okay, what are the ones that people are gonna say? Oh, that's it's like, oh, putting on house shows and doing art. Okay, millennial, whatever.
right, yeah,
But it's the same thing like with Gunner. Gunner's just take. It's like
Absolutely.
you just take pictures, or
Yeah.
but it's like he's doing it on another level, like
Oh,
on a different level,
absolutely.
and that's one thing that I think is cool about this younger generation growing up. I think older people, their eyes maybe are like too calloused or something. Like they don't have the culturally they don't have the eyes to see what's happening.
right, yeah,
And the hard work that's going into it.
right, yeah.
Kind of behind the scenes. It's like nothing is what it appears to be on the surface,
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's one of the things I think is really cool about the millennial generation is they're finding ways to like make stuff happen, and almost like it almost seems passive in a sense, like it's almost happening to them.
Yeah,
But like having house shows and opening and like there are a lot of things that become grind about that type of lifestyle,
oh yeah,
providing a service really for a community.
right, yeah. I mean, for the past 8 months, me and my wife we quit our jobs and have just solely been living off of creative works as a whole, and that I can't tell you how arduous that becomes month to month, but it's really, really worth it. But it's a lot harder than people think,
Yeah.
and but obviously it's worth it. But for guys like Gunner, how you mentioned him, gosh, he has taken the ball and really ran with it. And the cool thing about the older generation in Amarillo is that they're finally coming around to actually using millennials for like their companies or to promote things, because they're to a point now where they don't really know how to do it themselves, and so now they're having to hire out people like Gunner and give him a position and allow him to put food on the table, which is an awesome thing, I think. And it's about time that stuff like that is happening. So
Yeah, it is cool. It's exciting to for like a while. I got on the fire department when I was 20, and
Wow.
for a while I was the only professional. It was like I'd hang out with other 20-year-olds, and they're like, "Oh, I'm going to school, or I'm just taking off, or I'm doing this, or whatever." And
right,
then it's like around 25 is when it flipped, and
Yeah.
then now I'm seeing all these guys that are young guys, and they're doing a lot of different stuff and a lot of cool stuff and a lot of stuff that requires bravery.
yeah,
Like, it's not like you were saying, it's tough not having a steady paycheck, and then like what do you do about health insurance, and then what do you do
Oh,
about
absolutely,
like all just the bullshits of life
yeah,
that is part of growing up and being an older person and wanting to take care of your shit, not like you want to do the right thing as a citizen and everything, but sometimes it makes it hard to do your own thing because of just the constraints of the system, you know?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, an example for that, unfortunately, I'm having some issues with my right eye right now, and because we don't have insurance, because we work as creatives, it's going to be, you know, thousands of dollars to go to the doctor for, but that's something that you have to just figure out when you do stuff like this. So yeah, I'm getting to live that right now, and it's not the best. So, but
yeah, it's hard, man. It's like and like I even know a lot of entrepreneurs that they are afraid to strike out, and because it does require a certain amount of bravery to be like living over the edge a little bit. You know, it's not, you're not living with the safety net per se.
Yeah.
So, which I don't know how much of a safety net it really is. I mean, you know, I don't exactly know. Like our insurance with the city is like really good, but it's still like not super great, you know. I guess it has its ups and its downsides. It's just being a human sucks, I guess.
Oh,
you know?
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it comes down to it.
Yeah. No, I always was told that growing up is horrible, and some days it is. I mean, it's as hard as my parents said it was. So yeah, I believe them now.
Yeah. So this vintage clothing, where do you gather this stuff up at?
Yeah, that's a good question. Really, a lot of different ways. So when me and McAvery decided to try to kind of delve into vintage clothing, it really started out as just something that's what we really enjoyed doing together. We would like center dates even around going to thrift stores and stuff like that. And when we would go out of town, like we went on a 2-week trip and lived out of our Land Cruiser and went all along the South, and we would stop in thrift stores and stuff like that all along all the cities that we went to, and we've just enjoyed doing that for years now. And so we probably had like several thousand pieces stockpiled just from doing that over several years' time. Anything that we would really like that didn't fit either of us, we would buy it if it was affordable enough. And we would just have this huge pile of stuff that we had saved up. And then we're coming up on a year now since we got this massive donation from an estate sale. That's also where we found a lot of stuff. But we went to this estate sale about a year ago, and it was done by the Zint family. Huge thanks to them. That's why our vintage clothing store is called Zint Vintage, and ode to them. They actually gifted us, I think it ended up being about 7,000 or 8,000 pieces of vintage clothing. Their mom was a bit of a hoarder of very nice, expensive clothing, which worked out really nice for us. My wife had went and shopped the first 2 days of the estate sale and really was just going crazy about it. And I guess one of her daughters overheard her talking, and she wanted to get rid of all the clothing, obviously, and they weren't selling very much of it. So they gifted us 7,000 or 8,000 pieces with also the steel rod like hang up system and everything that all the clothes were hanging on, all the racks, we got all of it. And so that was our startup kit right there. And so after that, then we started going through the stuff that we wanted to sell in the vintage clothing store, and then the stuff we wanted to sell and donate to nursing homes, and the stuff we wanted to sell for like $1. And so after we did that, then we started doing pop-ups, and kind of we're here now. I think we've done probably 30 pop-ups since we started getting that stuff. So
nice.
It's been a crazy whirlwind. So
and so like a lot of that clothing you were saying is like, has it been worn ever?
Most of the clothing was in pristine condition. Maybe worn a few times. I mean, when you have 8,000 pieces of clothing in your closet, she couldn't have worn them more than a few times. And honestly, a good majority still had the price tags on them even.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And some of the price tags from clothes that were in the 60s, they were priced at like $75. So you can imagine what they would go for now. So that type of stuff we put on eBay and try to sell it that way. So it's been crazy. We kind of joke because our first dog that we got, he's about a year old now, and we actually found him at that estate sale. And all he knew for the first 3 or 4 months of his life were piles of clothes.
Yeah.
Because we literally got a U-Haul van, put everything in it, and then dropped it all in our living room. And it was just clothes piles all over the place. And so he didn't know a life without clothing everywhere. So it's been wild.
Yeah, that is wild, man. So, well, dang, that's crazy. So is that's you said your wife's kind of like her, like when she picks up a pair of jeans from the 70s, she's like, oh damn, I know exactly about this. Look at this inseam or whatever.
Exactly.
She kind of nerds out on them.
Yeah, she's done her research for sure. She's found different apps and like websites where you can actually type in like the code of the on the tag, and it'll tell you like what brand it is, what year it was made, and all that stuff. And so that's how she's found out about a lot of the clothing. And so we know exactly what time period most of our clothing is because of that. And so yeah, she nerds out. If there's anything vintage Lee or Levi or any of those brands, she's geeking out. So
you're talking about clothes that's like 50 plus years old.
Yeah, most of it. Yeah, we have a good portion of clothing that's even from the 30s and 40s, but we like to sell anything from like the 60s to the 90s. That's kind of our wheelhouse.
So is 90s considered vintage now?
It is.
Damn.
Yes, absolutely.
That's wild, man. It was funny because I was in Forever 21 yesterday with my wife.
No, don't get me started.
And they had like Reptar shit everywhere. And I was like, Reptar's coming back.
Yeah.
Who the hell would have thought Reptar? Like, I remember watching that when I was in diapers. I was watching Rugrats, And now it's like, I don't know, like a cliche almost.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting.
Well, I was actually hot the other day over something that Forever 21 did. I'm a huge fan of, I don't know if you remember the 90s brand LA Gear. They mainly did like classic like dad shoes, which are very in right now, like the white leather athletic sneakers. But huge fan of LA Gear, but they actually bought out the company for LA Gear and started reprinting vintage clothing that was done in the 80s and 90s. So it actually is, the stuff that they printed in the 80s and 90s. So they just straight up bought out the company and are selling LA Gear now in the stores.
Dang.
And that's when it's come full circle. I hadn't seen that yet, honestly. I hadn't seen big major companies actually buy out old vintage companies. So I sadly think that's something that's going to happen in the future, which is unfortunate. But it's happened with other companies like Pony. I believe Nike bought Pony shoes, and Nike bought Converse as well. So that's something that's happening now.
Dang.
Yeah.
So then that's just and then they're selling it for like $3 or something.
Yeah.
They're selling it for
so it ruins the vintage market for that because like LA Gear, like I was just saying, their stuff isn't ridiculously expensive, but on eBay you could get like an LA Gear shirt for like $45. That's pretty standard, and now you can go to Forever 21 and get it for like 10.
Yeah.
So
Oh man, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Let's see. So I have so one of the things that's kind of cool that when I'm not a fashion person, I've never really been. I was like, hey, North Face, I'll just buy one of each color of the shirts, and then I'm like covered.
Nothing wrong with that.
I was like, I kind of viewed my fashion as more of something that was happening to me than something I was like in control of.
Right, I got you.
But I have started to see that it's. I was trying to process this thought with my wife, but you're probably more of the right person to process this with, because I see these like if I'm walking down the street and for you for example, like when is all of the clothing that you're wearing, when's it from? What decade, or is it a?
I'm more of an 80s and 90s specifically.
90s.
Yeah.
So and I was thinking, like, if I saw somebody in 70s clothes or 90s clothes, it's like, okay, it's like a look that they're achieving.
Yeah.
So I don't know, it's hard for me to say because it's something that I already recognize. I recognize the vintage.
Yeah.
And when it starts coming back around and then people are dressing that way, to me, then you're doing something. Like, and then it's like, you're allowed to do it. So like almost you can dress any way you want to, as long as you're doing it justice to like whatever, like this nostalgic undertone. Like, right, if you did it right, you're allowed to do anything, it seems like.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, there's celebrities that have made that okay now, which is actually awesome. I dig it. Like, celebrity fashion is hilarious, but specifically like Shia LaBeouf, if I'm looking at anyone's fashion, I think me and him are on the same wavelength. I like to wear like vintage slacks or something with a ball cap and then change it up and wear like new sneakers, you know, like I like to do stuff like that where you intermingle like really old stuff but then have a pop of something new, like some really nice kicks, you know?
Yeah.
It's fun.
And I was actually, you got the Dilla's hat on.
Yes.
And I think this thing's still going. Yeah, the light's still on.
Okay.
The screen went black, but I think it's still recording.
Yeah,
but yeah, the Dilla's hat. When do you think that? Do you know when that was printed or when?
Yeah, this was probably not quite 90s, probably late 90s or like 2000. But yeah, I mean, I'm like a Dilla's freak, and so you can imagine how irate I've been over the past few weeks with all the situation we've had about the sod poodles and the butt busters or whatever they're called.
Bronc busters.
Yeah, you know, all the horrible sorry names. But yes, I think I have like 5 or 6 Dilla's hats now and like probably 10 vintage Dilla shirts.
Nice.
Yeah, I freak out every time.
Well, because I probably was given that hat.
Yeah.
Because whenever I was a little kid, I remember going to the Dilla's,
right,
and they would give free hats for the first like 50 people in.
Oh,
or whatever,
yeah.
You know. And
I can tell you who probably paid for it. We got Amarillo National, News Channel 10, and KGNC.
Yeah.
So yeah, got it right here.
That's crazy, dude.
Yeah.
Well, it was funny whenever I saw you walking up with that hat. That's the first thing I thought to my head that popped in my head was like, oh damn, I bet he is upset about the names of the new ball team.
Yeah, I'm a little upset.
Although I did talk to one of my buddies, works with Western Builders, and he was telling me about the stadium, and he said the stadium's going to be dope.
Oh, it's going to be great. Yeah, I mean. And since we have like a AA ball club, everything will be done well because it's pro affiliated. That's why I was kind of sore on us getting a junky name, just because our uniforms are going to be top of the line, incredible. They'll probably even make a great design for the sod poodles. I mean, I'm not that.
Is that the one that's picked?
Well, I don't think it's official, but I did see something on like Amarillo's official like Facebook page, and they had posted something about it. So I was like, oh man, I think it might be pretty official. If they're gonna do
honestly,
that.
if they put it to a vote,
yeah.
I mean, the most talked about name out of the selected names was Sod Poodle.
Yes.
So if they're going strictly for internet traffic,
yes,
that name won.
Yes.
And
absolutely.
I think that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to put. They don't care if I want this to go viral. I think is their thought. So what's gonna get them? Oh, Sod Poodle. Oh, I'm gonna click. What the hell? You know.
I mean, I get that.
Clicks or whatever.
I've seen like Flying Squirrels as minor league names. I mean, there's some horrible ones out there. El Paso, their team is the Chihuahuas, And so I mean,
See, I'm
there's
actually
some terrible ones.
This is
but-
the thing. I think those are okay
yeah.
because they're real animals.
Yeah.
You know, like that. If we had been the Amarillo prairie dogs,
Yeah.
hey, okay, that's kind of cool.
Yeah,
Like, we
we're
have
closer.
prairie dogs, and I know what a prairie dog is.
Yeah.
So it would be like saying the El Paso Chihuahuas, instead of naming them that, you'd name them the El Paso Taco Bell dog.
Right.
You know, I mean,
Yeah.
it's like why would you not just call them a Chihuahua? Like,
Yeah.
that's okay with me. Like, it's kind of playful and
Yeah.
silly and
Yeah, I don't mind the playfulness.
Yeah.
I think that's fun. That's minor league baseball
Yeah.
at its root. So
and it's
yeah.
kids going there, but
Oh yeah.
but I don't know. I'm probably not gonna be buying Emmett a poodle hat. You know,
Yeah.
maybe I will. I don't know. I guess they could do it
You
right.
need to get on the Amarillo Wonder Train is what you need to get on though.
The Amarillo Wonder Train.
Yeah.
That's what they're wanting to call
Have
it.
you heard about this team?
All
right, it's the Sandlot team that I started about.
Oh yeah.
I guess this is our 4th summer playing, but yeah, we had our first practice last Sunday. So
Yeah. I
Yeah.
was working that day. I was wanting to come out. I've never
man,
really
it was
played
a blast.
baseball. Is it fun?
Yeah,
Or like
it's a blast.
is playing? I guess Sandlot is basically you only need like 12 people because you have one person. You rotate in the batter. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, you can do it several different ways. I still like to do, if we play a game, I like there to be at least like 16 to 18 people there. This past Sunday, we thankfully had like 25 guys, so we were able to do a full on scrimmage and get dirty and stuff. It was fun.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So,
30 or 4th year? Did you say?
yeah, 4th year. Yeah, the first 3 years, it was mainly just me and like a group of friends. It wasn't really like a public thing that I was like trying to push, but this year, I specifically was trying to, like get some of the community involved and actually make it a thing instead of just like something that we kind of do every once in a while. And so, first practice went well. So,
Yeah,
it's been fun.
So, I guess some of that actually leads into like the next thing is like why Amarillo? Like if you're from New Mexico, I get your parents live in Lubbock.
My parents live in Lubbock now. Yeah, they moved away from New Mexico 2 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you live up here.
Yeah.
You have siblings?
Yes, I do. I have a brother and a sister. Brother's a year and a half younger, then I have a little sister that's in elementary.
Oh.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah, it's crazy. I'm almost like her dad in a way.
Yeah, that's
wild.
crazy.
But yeah, she was adopted from China, so that's why
Oh,
she's so much younger.
Yeah.
So yeah.
that's cool.
Yeah.
My in-laws tried to adopt a little girl from China too, but
Yeah.
it was like right when Oprah was like, "Oh, let's adopt children from
Oh,
China."
yeah.
So like all of America was like, "Give me one."
Oh, trust me, I've been there. We tried to adopt Zoe when I was going into my freshman year in high school, and that was when Beijing had got the okay for the Olympics there, and so they had stopped all adoption for like 3 years. They shut it down because they felt like that it made China look weak, and so it took us 4+ years to even get Zoe into the States because of that. So yeah, it was. My mom says it was the longest childbirth that she'll ever go through. So
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Dang, that's
Pretty
wild,
crazy,
man.
yeah.
Dang, man. So Amarillo. Why Amarillo?
really because for one, New Mexico's cool and all. And I enjoyed my childhood, but I didn't really feel anything for Eastern New Mexico. Like Amarillo is a huge step up from even where I came from, so I enjoy it for that fact alone. But I really think that Amarillo is just so moldable still. I mean, we're not a small city. We're 250,000 plus now, but I still feel like there's so much still to be done here, and I feel like in the next decade we'll make leaps and bounds, I hope. And so really that's why I'm here, just because I feel some kind of energy. There's history here. It's a great place. I mean, I compare it to Lubbock a lot, and I'm not trying to talk crap on Lubbock, but we just have so much more history than any other town our size in this area, really. I feel like Amarillo is just special, and so that's why I'm here. honestly. If I can make a living at it and stuff, then I'm going to stay here for a while, I hope. And because it's affordable, that's another reason. I mean, we have a nice big house and pay under $1,000 a month for it, and I mean, there's no way we could do that in LA or New York and stuff. And so
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Like when you live in some of these cool places,
yeah.
you're renting that life.
Oh, absolutely.
You're not buying that life.
No.
You know, you're not building equity or really what I think is interesting is it's like building equity in the financial sense, but also in the community sense.
Yeah.
Because well, especially since I started this podcast, but even beforehand, there are people who are getting started in the community now that will be people in the community later.
Yeah.
Not even necessarily saying in the arts, which is but there's people that are getting hired at jobs right now that they're going to end up owning the business in 30 years. You know, there's people who are settling into the community and that are going to be players in the community.
Yeah.
And it's just good to know. It's good to know like you meet those people versus I feel like in Denver, there's so much coming and going and moving and like the whole thing. It's like the city seems to be breathing. It brings people in. It brings people out. It brings people in. You know, and
absolutely.
And then just the sheer size of it. The cost and everything. It's like, you know, I feel like in Amarillo, I own my community in a sense. I have long-reaching relationships with people that go back 15 years of getting real, being real. I was real with this person 15 years ago. You know, it's kind of a cool. It's a cool community for that. I mean, it's a small town. Yeah,
it is. Small town, but with enough people to kind of have some big city dreams almost. I really like it because
big city dreams. I never thought about that.
Yeah, I think our art community as a whole also is a little bit more rooted than people even understand. Like Lubbock again, for instance. I've done a lot of art shows there over the past year or two just because they really have a place to show art. But the reason that I am so happy to be in Amarillo is because, I mean, their art community changes every 4 years because of their university. They have 35,000 kids come in every 4 years. And so those artists will stay there for 4 years and then leave. And the awesome thing about Amarillo is that like young creatives of all kinds are actually staying here now and kind of making roots and trying to make a go of it here, which even wasn't the case in Amarillo, I think, 5 or 10 years ago, which is awesome to see. I think that's why things are actually starting to happen. So,
yeah, there's a certain amount of investment that has to be done in the beginning. And I was actually having going up to Denver. I've been going to Denver now for 10 years, going and visiting, and it's swelling. The congestion's getting worse, like the parking is getting worse. And then you come back to Amarillo and literally you might sit through a light one time.
Oh, yeah.
But that's on a bad day, I typically, when the roads are all tore up right now, but as soon as they get them all finished, it'll be fine.
Oh, absolutely.
And so it is always funny. I always wonder if Amarillo, I don't think Amarillo could because of the climate and the fact that it's just so abrasive sometimes living here. I don't think it'll draw big crowds.
Yeah.
But I always wonder if Amarillo is going to swell, like in a similar sense,
Right.
Because there's a lot happening here and there's so much opportunity. People, like in the tech, I'm not going to be able to remember. Jason Boyette had a guy on the other day who was talking about the biotech industry and was wanting to revolutionize it and was wanting to bring it to Amarillo. And that's one of the things he was saying is we've got a whole northeast side of Amarillo that there's a lot of abandoned warehouses that are just empty floor space.
Oh yeah,
huge buildings. I mean, as soon as I don't understand why tech companies aren't moving here, buying that up, using cheap rent, cheap electricity, cheap housing for their employees, and just how much stuff's done online anyway? You know,
Oh,
why do you need
absolutely.
to be centrally located or something?
Yeah, I mean the Amarillo warehouse company where we do a lot of our pop-ups, actually where me and McCabe were married at, they bought, I think it's 6 stories, and they bought that thing for like $150,000, and it's not even in bad shape. That's mind-boggling to me, and it should be to most people. Like the if you want something here, it's pretty affordable. They only had to put 25,000 down to get that place. So that's wild to me.
That is pretty wild. 25,000.
25,000, yeah.
And it's what? How many floors you say?
6.
6.
Yep.
Dude, is it where at downtown?
It's right beside MRL. So
oh, okay.
There's
So does it
MRL.
have heavy timber construction on the inside? Big timbers. Does it
Yeah.
have an old elevator in it.
Yeah, it does. It has a
ones?
working elevator inside. Yeah, it was the Amarillo Ice House, the second Amarillo Ice House.
Oh.
So it was only in use for a few years, and then they started. I guess I don't know if it was refrigeration that was invented or what, but I guess they just went out of business and had been sitting there for a long time. So
Dang, that is crazy.
yeah, pretty awesome.
That is awesome. Yeah, I that's the thing that you said that those people were transplants. Did you say?
Yes.
So why'd they move here? Do you know?
I think because of the affordability, they started a nonprofit over in San Jacinto. We're able to get into a building over there for pretty affordable, and then they bought that building as well. So yeah, they're just trying to plug in and be active members of Amarillo. So
It was
pretty
funny,
cool.
man. We were I have a friend that live in the town square apartments,
Yeah.
and we were getting in on the top floor and we are going down to the bottom floor, and this couple got on with us, and she was from LA or something, and she was just like, go home, like, just if you can leave Amarillo, leave Amarillo. It was just kicking her ass, because our winters, man, it's dry, it's cold, it's it's not really for the faint of heart.
No.
And she was just like, leave. But I was wondering, like, man, you take somebody who grew up with the costs of like California or like a really desirable quote unquote place to live. You take them and then you bring them to Amarillo, and they realize that their money goes way further in Amarillo than it does there.
Oh, absolutely.
And the opportunities there. It is kind of, I'm surprised that I wonder how much more that will happen.
Yeah, I think we're kind of at the beginning of a trend. Honestly, it's cool you bring that up, because even like, let's say places like Denton, Texas, which it's much higher than it is here, but it's still very much affordable compared to LA. And I don't know if you're familiar with LA actor Jason Lee. He was in like My Name Is Earl, and he used to be a professional skateboarder and stuff. But he was born and raised in the LA area and moved out to Denton, Texas about 2 or 3 years ago now, and owns this huge ranch and is living the Texas life, along with like guys like Matthew McConaughey and people like that. And I think people are moving out here, one, because they can, if you have any money at all, you can build these huge mansions and live whatever life you want to live. And also it's quiet. You really are, it's very comfortable out here. It's a great way of living, I think. But
yeah, it is wild, man. I want to experience more places. I want to go to like New York City. But anytime I'm away, I'm always kind of like, all right, I think I'm just a West Texas boy.
It's been a few days.
I think I just need to just kind of be at home. Oh, well, dude, we've been going for an hour and 2 minutes. I really appreciate you doing this.
Absolutely, it was a blast.
Yeah, and I'm sure I'll have you on again sometime
I hope
soon.
So, yeah.
So
I'm excited.
All right, thank y'all for tuning in. And one last question: dog or cat?
Dog all day.
Dog all day.
Yes, sir.
All right. Appreciate you, people. Take it easy.
Yeah. See y'all.
Nice. Yeah, I'm trying to keep the interviews around an hour now.
Perfect.
And then I'm gonna do like an intro.
Uh huh.
And